Hey there, how's it going? Good afternoon. Today is Friday, July 25th, 2025. Currently 73 degrees Fahrenheit. That is 23 degrees Celsius. This is Eugene, Oregon, home of the University of Oregon. I lived here for a year and a half from winter of 1993 until early fall of 1994, and then came back again for just a couple of months in the winter of 1998 going into 1999. I'm not going to get into all of that, my past history here just yet. As you can see, stopped at Whole Foods and got some random stuff for lunch. Almond milk, a couple of sheep milk yogurts, which I've never had before, but just thought that I would give them a try for something a little bit different. Strawberry and blackberry, seeded Parmesan crackers, and a slice of pizza. So I just spent the past 2 nights at the hotel that I showed at the beginning there, and today am driving up to Salem, the capital of Oregon, where my old friend Eric lives, and I have used his address as my legal address for a long time, about a decade, while I've been traveling around the world. And so I have mail collected there over the past 7 months of my recent trip. Not like tons and tons of mail, but basically just a few important packages that I want to pick up, as well as visit Eric and his wife Lori, and they just moved into a brand new house that they had custom built. Just moved in this month and are in the process of moving stuff in there, so looking forward to seeing their house there. And then my plans for the rest of Oregon are undetermined, but in 1 week from today, I catch a flight, and so you will find out where I'm flying to next soon, inside the U.S., but very much looking forward to going there. Going to be a very nice 1 week vacation there. So time to munch here. This was all $18. And then let's go do a little random exploring around Eugene and go on a trip down memory lane. The Campbell Club Cooperative. I lived here in fall of 1993, so there was a guy sitting here, and I asked him if I could just show that and then walk away and not show him in the video, and he was kind enough to say, hey, I'll leave and then you can make a little bit more of a video showing the scene here. So I would love to get inside and show what it's like in there. It is very creative, but just going to give a quick little glimpse of the outside here, and then start walking into the University of Oregon, the campus right there, and tell the story of how I ended up living in Eugene and eventually living here at the Campbell Club Cooperative household. There are 3 of these co-ops. I forget the names of the other ones, but I think one is the Lorax. That just popped into my head. I think probably this one is the Lorax, and then there is another one down there. So they were fraternities and or sororities, which were then turned into a real like hippie thing. So yeah, I can see there it says Lorax Manor, although they spelled it wrong. M-A-N-N-E-R, that's funny. Unless that was intentional for some reason. And so you can see they really have, you know, a creative, artistic, as well as graffiti, somewhat sort of trashed out kind of a vibe to them. So let's commence the walk and talk. All right, so I am going to start this video in Canada. The story, just to give some context of how I got here. So, spring of 1992, Chris McCandless hitchhikes to Alaska and hikes out into the wilderness. So I was going to university in Juneau, capital of Alaska, along with my good buddy Eric, who lives in Salem, and I will be driving up there next, as I mentioned. But I met him in Fairbanks. We were dorm mates there, and then we both moved to Juneau together. There you go, University of Oregon. Very nice campus. Of course, being July, then not many classes in session, and so very, very quiet. So I am really going to do my best to not ramble on too much and give too much detail about very unrelated stuff. But of course, the book and movie Into the Wild about Chris McCandless and his tragic story in the wilderness of Alaska. And so he is hitchhiking up through Canada, and I am getting ready to leave Juneau and cover some of the same ground, because I have a job in Denali National Park. I'd worked in Denali in the summer of 1991 as well, after having attended the University of Alaska Fairbanks. And so I leave Juneau on a ferry to Haines on the panhandle of Alaska and start hitchhiking. It is about a week after Chris McCandless had basically started hiking out into the wilderness. And so it is early in May, still quite chilly. And so, long story short, I hitchhike to Denali and start my job. And that summer, I meet a guy, Matthew, and he was from Eugene. So there you go. I meet a couple of other friends, Hattie and Nathan, and the four of us go on lots of adventures in Denali National Park, backpacking and just hanging out. End of that summer, I had decided to move back to Northern California, where I'm from, to Petaluma, where my dad, his wife, my stepmother, Mariana, and my brother, Christo, were living, and then spend that semester of fall 1992 attending Santa Rosa Junior College. So I had completed 2 years of university in Alaska, as well as 1 semester at Mendocino Community College, which is in the town of U.S.A, where my mom now lives, and she was living there back in '89 when I attended that college for 1 semester. But then I bailed in the spring, saved up money, and went to Europe. But that is a whole other story. And so I moved down to Petaluma and started attending the junior college there. And then I decided to come up to Eugene and visit Matthew for a few days. Visited Matthew, met his girlfriend at the time, Sharon, who is still a good friend of mine, and really liked the town. So headed back down to Petaluma and completed that semester, and in the process was considering what to do next, whether to stay there and do another semester there. But I really like the town here, and so I decided that I would move up here with the intention of going to U.S.A, University of Oregon. But the tuition would be much cheaper as a resident, an Oregon resident. And so the plan was to move up here, stay for a year, then you become a resident, and then attend the university after a year. Now, I had no dollars to my name back then, and so I'm not sure how I even intended to pay for tuition as well as everything else while going to school, but that was in the future. So I moved up here in, I think, March of 1993, and then I will just give a quick synopsis of my experiences here. First, I will mention that my two books, Following My Thumb, A Decade of Unabashed Wanderlust, and Kundalini and the Art of Being, fit together. Following My Thumb is both a prequel and a sequel to Kundalini and the Art of Being. So, Following My Thumb covers from 1990, my trip to Europe, to basically 92, I think, Europe and Alaska. And then it skips way ahead to later in the 90s, except for one story about the cult that I visited in Sedona, Arizona in 1996. And then the rest of the story is about the late 90s. And then Kundalini and the Art of Being fills that in from basically 93 to 96. But it also has the story of the cult in Sedona, and so that kind of ties the two books together. That same story, but told a little bit differently. So I moved to Eugene and have maybe $1,000 to my name, if that, $700-800, something like that. And I end up camping on the lawn of my friend Matthew's house. He lived in this little house behind another house, and so there was a lawn between the two houses so that you weren't right in front of the street. I'm trying to remember how this worked, considering that spring in Oregon can be very, very, very wet. But maybe it wasn't such a wet spring, and so it was more doable somehow. Anyways, that's what happened, and so I lived there for, I don't know, a few weeks or something, and then used their house for the bathroom and hanging out with Matthew and his roommate, Paul. And then, as far as work, then Matthew's roommate, Paul, had this handyman service. And so I decided to do the same thing and just do like handyman work, landscaping, lawn mowing. I had a station wagon, and then I bought a lawnmower and put an ad in the local newspaper about my handyman services, and that worked. I managed to get enough work to get by, barely. And then after however long it was, a few weeks of living on Matthew's lawn, I got a room in a house with some roommates. So here's one little detail illustrating how broke I was at the time. At one point, I went to the gas station and I didn't say fill it up. I said, put in the gas tank 27 cents. 27 cents. Pull up to a gas station, 27 cents, and then leave. Because that was literally all that I had. And that gave me enough gas to drive out to the community college, Lane Community College, and look at their work listings. I guess I didn't have any other jobs lined up, and so I went out there and then found some kind of a, I guess, handyman kind of a job in their listings there, and then got some more work the next day and just kind of kept on going. But I did not have much cash to work with those times. I mean, partly because the work was very kind of spotty. I'd get a few jobs and then nothing for a few days. But I managed to get by. And then I was thinking about going to the university here. And somehow I found out about those co-ops. Probably somebody just recommended them. That's somewhere that you can live while going to the U.O. Very inexpensive rent, and then some meals included. And so I went over there and talked with them and explained, I'm not going to the university this semester, fall of '93, because I'm waiting for my residency to kick in, because I'd come up here in March of '93. And so I was hoping that I would still be considered a resident at the beginning of the spring semester. And so I explained that to them, and they said, well, if you're going to go to the university next semester, then we'll give you a break and you can move in now. And so moved in, and that is where I met Jeffrey, the mysterious homeless man mentioned in my book, Kundalini and the Art of Being, and had lots of other adventures and experiences. And then come end of the semester, I couldn't go to the university. I had no money. And I don't think that my father could afford to pay for it either. And so I had to drop that plan. And then when they found out about that, they kicked me out. They said, okay, well, if you're not going to the university, this is for university students, so you gotta leave. So early in '94, I found another roommate situation. And the story continues from there. Now, I might possibly be wrong about the camping on my friend's lawn. Maybe I found the roommate situation first, and then it kind of wasn't ideal, and I decided to move out of there after a few months. Maybe I moved onto the lawn later in late spring or early summer or something when it was warmer. That's a possibility there. Another random little story of my lack of funds. My car stopped starting. Starter wasn't working, but I couldn't afford to take it to a mechanic, but it still would jump start if I rolled down a hill. And it had a unique feature, which is that you could leave the car running and take the key out. So I could take out the key while it was still running and then lock the doors and go into a store or whatever. And so I would do that and then park on a hill in front of my friend Matthew's house, because it was while I was there camping on the lawn. And so I would start my car by, I guess, pushing it out into the street and then rolling down the street and jump starting it, and then drive around and run errands and leave it running at places while I was in the store or whatever. And this went on for a while, like at least a few weeks or something. And then Matthew's roommate Paul took a look at it at one point, and he just kind of fiddled around and did something, and then he fixed it just like on the spot in like a couple of minutes. It didn't cost me anything, and it was a really quick and easy fix, so that really helped me out there. Okay, so there you go. That was the University of Oregon, and a little taste of the town. And so what I want to do now is try to find a couple of the houses that I lived at. One in particular, and maybe I can also find the one where I lived on the lawn camping. Also, I have a couple of errands to run I need to get an oil change for my car and get an international driving permit. So I will just cruise around, get a few things done, and check out more of the town. So this is going into the street that leads to the university, and there are lots of cool little restaurants and pretty nice drawing here, 2015. Okay, so my car is parked a few blocks that way. Grab that and do some more random exploring. So here you got Dave's Hot Chicken and a number of restaurants here, very quiet because of being summer, and then that is the university right there. And my car is up here somewhere. So I really don't know how well this is going to work. I have no addresses, of course. I'm just going on memories from more than 3 decades ago. But I do recognize this Safeway on the right, and these streets in general. One of my jobs here was a pizza delivery guy. I got that after the handyman work. So did a lot of driving around this city. Now, to the best of my recollection, I'm going to go straight up here, and then that house where I camped on the lawn is somewhere up here, as well as another one. Actually, it might have been on this very street. So I've been driving around for 10 minutes or so trying to find it. No luck. These neighborhoods all look quite similar. There definitely wasn't a park right there, but very pleasant neighborhoods back in here. I think it is definitely one of the best parts of Eugene to live in. So as I wander around here for a couple more minutes, then just wanted to say that I think Eugene is my favorite city of Oregon. I also lived in Portland from 2002 to 2009, so lived there for longer. I have family up there, and both of my friends, Sharon and Matthew, had moved up there by that time. But Eugene is just really pleasant. It has a lot going on, lots of cool restaurants. It has the college and the whole college scene and vibe. So it has like big city opportunities as far as things to do, but a much smaller feel than Portland. And Portland, especially in recent years, has definitely gotten a lot more down and out. Even though I still like Portland, but I would definitely say that I think that Eugene is the best city in Oregon. Now, those are the only 2 cities in Oregon that I've lived in, but I have been through many other ones. Now, then it kind of depends on what you call a city versus a large town or small town. But there's Salem, where my friend Eric lives, the capital, and it's alright, but doesn't do a whole lot for me. Corvallis, I've only passed through there. Also college town, but definitely very different feel, and didn't really like it that much. And then Ashland is a very cool town, I would say, not a city. Not nearly as much to do there. And then you have places over on the coast that are really all towns. And Eastern Oregon, just, you know, small towns. Okay, well, I am recognizing places from having already driven past them a couple minutes ago and not having any luck. I am certain I'm within a block or two because I know that it was right off of that busy street down there, but I've been through all of these blocks. So, you know, memories from 30 years ago can definitely be off. I think I'm going to have to abandon this plan, but at least I've shown some of the nice neighborhoods of Eugene, and we shall go see some more. Now, another place that I lived was very close to wherever that other house was, and I'm really certain that it was on this street, and yes, I think it was maybe that house there, which was not pink at the time. Pretty sure that was it, because it was right on the street with no yard, and that was part of the problem, was that you could hear the traffic because my room was on the road side, so the living room was on this side, and then 2 bedrooms on the street side, and so the traffic was just constant and not pleasant to wake up to. But I lived there with Sharon and Matthew. So that was in the winter of '94, after I moved out of the Campbell Club. I think it was kind of short notice. I thought that I was gonna stay there, and then sometime in January, you know, like in the middle of the winter break, then they said, you gotta move. And Matthew and Sharon were living there and had that empty bedroom. So I moved in with them for a few months or something, and then got yet another place. So I had like 5 different places here in the course of a year and a half. So I think I was successful with that one. And then the place that I moved to next was with some other roommates. I think I moved out of the place with Matthew and Sharon simply because, like, the owners decided they were moving back in or something like that, and we all had to leave, to the best of my recollection. Okay, let's see if I can find the other place, which is gonna be tough. But it has a distinctive color, or at least it had. Good chance it has been painted, but it was called the Eggplant House because it was purple. And so I'll tell one story while trying to find this one, which I think probably isn't going to happen, but a bad story, which is that the house got robbed, and I got hit the worst because my bedroom was the only one that was downstairs. The other 3 roommates, which to the best of my recollection were Hillary, definitely Hillary, and Daniel. And then I think maybe the 3rd one was Ethan, but he wasn't around very often. And so we didn't lock one of the doors, not the main entrance, but a back door, just because it didn't lock properly or something. And so I'm sure that that's how they got in. But I came back to the house and saw that a bunch of my CDs were missing. Out in the living room, I had a great collection of CDs, and like 4/5 of them or something were gone. And I was like, what is going on around here? Did somebody, like one of the roommates, decide to borrow my CDs to copy them or something? I didn't know. And then I go into my bedroom, and they basically got like everything of importance that I own, which wasn't much, but my backpack and maybe my tent. And losing all the CDs was a really bad one. And I forget what else, but I could make a whole video about all of the different times that I've gotten robbed, most of which weren't while traveling. There have only been a couple of incidents while traveling. Okay, this turn looks really familiar. I remember this turn at this park. Gotta be close. But another time that I was robbed in Eugene. Robbed is the wrong word, but there isn't really an exactly accurate word for thefted, stolen from. But my bike got stolen. A bike that I won in a raffle in Juneau, Alaska, when I was going to university there in 91, 92. So I was the school reporter because I was studying creative writing, and I think that I was covering a story about the raffle, something like that, or the event that the raffle was happening at, which was more than just a raffle. Yeah, it must have been a whole event. So I was the reporter covering the story, and then while I was there covering the story, I entered the raffle, and then I won it. And the main thing was the mountain bike. And love that bike, and so I had it here, and then I was volunteering at the Wow Hall. Okay, let's go try to find the Wow Hall and see if it's still actually what it was, and then I will finish the story there. And boom, I'm pretty sure that this is it, the eggplant house. I decided to go back and do another check because that curving street that you couldn't go straight was a clue. This is all looking right, even though it's now blue. But so that was the back door that wasn't locked, and then it had this big front porch, and sure enough, big front porch. Yeah, for sure. With the entrance, the stairs on the left, and then the couch. I mean, that could be the same couch, like old couch, I remember that, and some more chairs, and then an upstairs. Yeah, pretty dang sure that is it. And so, yeah, that really sucked, especially since I had no money, and I had bought that backpack pretty recently, like a few months earlier, with like the $100 I had saved, you know, the only $100 that I'd saved, other than buying CDs here and there. But you get knocked down and you just get back up. It's happened to me so many times, getting stuff ripped off. Fortunately, it's been a while. All right, let's get over to the Wow Hall. So right here is where my bike was stolen. I don't think it was the same bike rack. I think it was something else, but there was a bike rack here, which it was locked to with a cable lock that they cut through. And so that was after finishing up my shift working at the Wow Hall, and sure enough, it is still rocking. Check it out. Tracy Bonham, not sure who that is, but of course John Bonham was the drummer for Led Zeppelin, right? Yachtly Crew, haven't heard of them. Jerry Joseph and the Jack Mormons, Tommy Castro, Cursive, Deep Sea Diver, Red Leather, Destroyer, Peter Antonion. So this is a music venue. Lots of acts come through here, and moderately big-ish ones. Okay, somebody in there. And so I volunteered here. So the deal was, you volunteered for half of the shift, and then you got to watch the other half of the show. So it was just like 50-50. Either you volunteered for the first part and saw the second part, or you volunteered for the second part and saw the first part, if you wanted to. But it was a great way to get, you know, free music experience and hang out and meet some people. So I was just like the ticket checker guy, stamping hands and letting people in. And so I would just work there, you know, a few times a month. And so I'd just finish watching the show, I guess, and then walked out there to get my bike, and nothing there, lock lying on the ground. And I walked home very, very sad, because that was like an almost new bike still, good, solid mountain bike. And so after that, somebody said they had an old bike I could use. It was like this just total beat up cruiser one-speed thing that was no replacement really for the good, awesome mountain bike, but better than nothing. And I rode that thing around for the next, you know, however long, many months that I was here. Okay, let's go to another place where I volunteered. A nice mural here. Is it a woman from Peru, maybe? Or maybe a Native American? Anyway, so I'm going to explain the next place as I walk over there. So I volunteered at Whitebird. Whitebird is basically a place that offers free services to homeless people, and so that's why I'm going to explain it now, because I'm not going to be able to film there much, especially if anybody's hanging around, because of course the homeless generally don't like to be filmed, understandably. Wow, this is quite phenomenal. Looks very European. So I'm not certain why it's called Whitebird, but it would make sense that it was named after the song from the 60s, Whitebird, by the psychedelic rock band It's a Beautiful Day. So they were contemporaries with and played alongside, in some cases, some major 60s rock groups. They opened for Cream and came out of San Francisco, knew the Grateful Dead, and I was just reading up on them just to have a little bit more info. They were basically a one-hit wonder with Whitebird, great song. Yeah, so here you go. Nobody here, so Whitebird Clinic. It looks very closed. Maybe it's closed in the summer. No lights on, maybe just who knows why. Anyways, info line, human services info and referral. And so I volunteered there. You know, I have no medical experience, so it was just like the reception desk, taking calls, and people would come in and I would say where to go or something like that. I forget how I ended up working there. So a few hours a week, maybe half a day a week or something like that. And so in the vein of famous rock groups I had a very loose connection with, already mentioned in my last video about how I went to high school with the drummer for Green Day, Trey Cool, and one of the members of It's a Beautiful Day also lived in Willits, Hal Wagonette. I checked the Wikipedia page and confirmed I got that name right because I remembered it, and sure enough, it's on there. Hal Wagonette was, I think, the guitarist for It's a Beautiful Day. Maybe he was out of the band by then, not sure, but Chrysalis, I remember that as well, so that is connected to the Whitebird, and so they offer like free medical and dental services and counseling and stuff like that. Lots of cool art around here. Okay, well, now I think it's time to go get an oil change. And taking care of business. Lube It U.S.A. Oil change done for $48. And as you can see, this is Sundance Natural Foods. So I'm going to get cruising here and explain why I am showing a health food store. It is because of a job of mine.
Turn right onto Hilliard Street.
While I navigate through Eugene and get to Interstate 5 and get out of here, heading north up to Salem.
Continue on Hilliard Street for 1 mile.
So I mentioned my job as a handyman landscaper. That was my first job, and then in the fall of '93, once I'd moved into the Campbell Club Cooperative, then going into the fall, cooler and rainier season, I decided to look for another job. And so I got a job as a bread delivery driver. So there was a like bakery warehouse somewhere in kind of western Eugene somewhere. And so I would drive there, and my shift started at either 5 or 6 in the morning, alternating. I think I worked 4 days a week, and the first day was 6 in the morning, the second day was 5, third day was 6, fourth day was 5, something like that. So really freaking early. And so I would arrive at the bakery, and nobody else would be there. All of the bread had been baked the previous day, and what I had to do was load up the van, the company van, and then drive around to stores delivering the bread and putting it on the shelves. And so Sundance was one of the health food stores. It was mostly health food stores that we delivered to, and then a few other places. And so I would spend like an hour or so in the warehouse packing up the van, and then head out of there. And so I did that for 6 months-ish, and then I think in winter of '94 at some point I was sick of the early morning hours, and so I looked around for another job and got a job delivering pizza for Tracktown Pizza, and that was where I worked until finally I left Eugene in the fall of '94, I think in October, and that's a whole big long story told in Kundalini and the Art of Being. I sold my truck, had a little money, very little money, $700-800, and went off on a hitchhiking adventure, and I won't get lost on that one. So there you go, that is Eugene, Oregon, and a little bit of my life there. Now time to get back on the Interstate 5 and head north. So more videos coming from somewhere, sometime, I have no idea. It's definitely going to be very spotty for the next probably several weeks. All right, have a good one. See ya. 105 East to Interstate 5, Springfield, Portland. Springfield, famous for being where The Simpsons takes place. And yes, it is actually named after Springfield, Oregon. Matt Groening is from Oregon. So wanted to end this video by saying that I will be having dinner with Eric and Lori tonight, so won't film it, but I filmed my lunch yesterday, so we'll end the video with that. Have a good one. Safe travels.